This Saturday looks like the perfect time for the Bearcats offense to make a statement.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bearcats. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm all Cincinnati all the time. I've worked in multiple athletic departments in the media relations area, and I've been a season ticket holder for Bearcats football for 7 seasons now. Locked On Bearcats is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Bearcats, every single day. And on today's podcast, Russ Heltman is back, and we'll give you your predictions for the Bearcats trip to Stillwater a little bit later on in the show. We are really seeing a consistent defensive game plan. So can we trust that the scoring side of things is going to continue in this whole bend but don't break effort? We'll discuss that here in just a few minutes. But we will begin with the offense and why it's time to go off on Saturday. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And today we have joining us one of the most trusted voices around Clifton. He's Russ Heltman. He's back this week. Russ, what you got for me?
Great to be with you, Jeff. How about the Bearcats midway through the 2025 season, already just one win away from bowl eligibility? We've been here before, though, just a week later last year, and they lost 5 straight. I would be shocked thoroughly if that happened this year, but as the message came through across the week from the program, far from a job finished at 5-1.
Right, and I love the fact that that's what their aim is. And I know that I talked with Dan Horde early on in the season, and they're like, "Oh, Dallas is our goal." And you know, we were just kind of like, "Yeah, that's great, that's cool. Let's just make sure we win some ball games here." But maybe they've got a point, and the whole idea of being bowl eligible almost feels like less than a consolation prize at this point because of how good they've played. And that all starts with the offense. And when they've got this kind of a matchup with Oklahoma State coming up, it feels like it's time for this offense not to just have a good day, but to have a great day.
I would agree, Jeff. Let's look at the old past 3 weeks for this Oklahoma State defense. 45 from Baylor, 41 from Arizona, 39 from Houston. They gave up 69 on the road against Oregon earlier this season. I said this may be a little. I'm dating myself a little bit here as a Seinfeld fan, but the scene where Kramer opens the door in the apartment and it's just all red. That's what you see from the analytics pages for this Oklahoma State team, especially on defense. It's they're not only one of the worst teams in the power conferences, they are one of the worst teams in all of the FBS.
Yeah, the sign that was filling his apartment with all of that wonderful red light. The signs are not looking good in Stillwater right now. Exactly. I mean, red and all of the analytics and stuff. I was looking at like the EPA statistics on both of these teams, and quite frankly, there's not really a whole lot of statistics that Oklahoma State is above, like ranked in the top 100 of, let alone ranked in an area where you think, oh, we've got to worry about this element of their game.
Exactly. This team is really, really bad. They're down their starting quarterback from the start of this season. They're starting a player, down Zane Flores, and starting, I think, Jackson the
Sam
fifth.
Jackson.
Sam
It
Jackson.
just makes me think. It makes me think of that Dave Chappelle bit.
Right. Sam Jackson the fifth. I haven't seen a fifth on a roster in a long, long time. So that's kind of cool to see. But other than that, I don't think there's going to be much cool quarterback play coming from a converted wide receiver. A guy who did play a lot of quarterback in high school, but yeah, that's where this program is at right now after firing Mike Gundy following he was there for 20 plus years with Oklahoma State.
Was it 21? He's a man. He's 40, something like that. But I think that, no, you're right. And I was talking with our Oklahoma State guy a couple of days ago, previewing this matchup, and he's like, we've done this fun thing in the first half where we just run some really weird stuff and we see if it hits. And so maybe that's something that could throw the Bearcats off. But at the same time, I feel like their defense is made for that. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Right. A note on that. 8 players have thrown a pass for Oklahoma State this year, as Scott Satterfield said earlier this week. So some trickery definitely possible. But when you're relying on trickery as much as they're going to have to rely on it, you're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, there's something about surprising people with it as opposed to people expecting some shenanigans. And That kind of seems like what they should call Oklahoma State's offense, at least right now, is some shenanigans. But the defense, I'm not even sure what you call it, because when you really match up everything that the Bearcats do, it seems like they can take advantage of this succinctly. I was looking over at gameonpaper.com, just found this out. I'm a little bit new to the analytics side of college football, to be honest with you. But when I found this, I was like, oh, okay. EPA per pass, Bearcats are 6th. And Oklahoma State's defense is 125th. Yeah, just sign up for that.
It's really bad, really bad. Similar numbers at cfbgraphs.com. EPA per dropback, which kind of factors in all dropbacks, including scrambling. Brendan Sorsby and the Bearcats, 20th in EPA per dropback. And OSU, 135th. For people that don't know, there are 136 FBS teams in the entire country. And for people that are just needs traditional stats to kind of make it a little bit easier, 129th in points allowed, 36.7 points allowed per game. They are just, it's hard to find a statistic similar to the Bengals here in Cincinnati, where their defense is not among the bottom of the entire college football sphere.
It's so weird to say, and this feels like the last week that we can have conversations like this, because the schedule really tightens up for the Bearcats the rest of the way.
Yep.
But it just feels like there's such an advantage here. And I know that we, as Cincinnati sports fans in any sort of ilk, have a hard time looking at big advantages and getting excited about them. But that's kind of where I am with this. Like, Brendan Sorsby's playing so well right now. It feels like this offense, and I saw FanDuel has Cincinnati's total points at 40 and a half. I'm like, wow, they really think that UC's going go in this one. I kind of have a hard time trying to cast some sort of realistic pall on this. It does feel like they're going go.
40 and a half seems pretty sharp to me. That I don't know if I would make a play at that number. That's really high. I mean, it's still difficult to put up 41 in a conference game, homecoming game. I mean, this probably is the last hurrah for this Oklahoma State crowd this season, really trying to get up for their guys and bring home a W on homecoming. So 41 would mean they're executing at pretty much the highest level, because despite the all overwhelming advantages on offense for Cincinnati here, there are some time of possession issues for Cincinnati. And when they're not, as we've seen, Jeff, executing down to down, snap to snap, getting those early downs in order, then they can sputter out and let the other team control the football. And it's hard to put up a lot of points when that's happening. So I wouldn't be shocked if they hit 41, but it definitely seems like the right number, so to speak.
The thing that's stuck in the back of my mind thinking about that number, trying to get to that number, is how they played last week, where it felt like they probably, I mean, UCF's got a better defense than Oklahoma State for sure.
Miles
at the same,
better, way better. Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, what do you chalk that up to? Is that more concerning for UC's offense, or more of a hat tip to UCF's defense plus emotional letdown after Iowa State? Is it fluky, or is it something to be concerned about moving forward?
I don't think it's really something to be super concerned about, because just there were a lot of weird things that happened in that game. There was just a lot of, it was a wonky game. It didn't really have a lot of good flow to it. I didn't love the officiating again in that game. And just, I mean, they should have won 20-3 basically, except for what would they hit off the dude's face mask and bounce up in the air?
Defensive pass interference call again for some reason.
Yeah, there was one of those, and then there was the bounce out on fourth down. It bounced off the guy's face mask and bounced to the other UCF receiver who ran down the sideline. Completely fluke play right there. But that's on the defensive side of the ball. Right. I am looking for a Brendan Sorsby bounce back here. The passing acumen hasn't been, I would say, top notch throughout the entire season. Overall, Brendan Sorsby is playing really great football, and he's executing on those deep passes like we said he was going to need to going into the year, and he's doing that very well. But some longer sustained drives would be kind of good to see. On the flip side, if you're this explosive as an offense, averaging the second most yards per play, I mean, the goal is to score. Just get the ball in the end zone. So I'd like to see some more consistent passing for Brendan Sorsby. I'd like to see some more consistent, maybe 8 in a row completions here, 7 in a row completions there throughout the middle stretches of games. But all in all, they were a couple of plays away from really blowing that game open against UCF. And as we've seen throughout this 5-1 start, they don't need the offense to really execute at the highest of high levels and put a lot of pressure on themselves, because The defense is starting to round into form now. Getting Dante Corleone back consistently, I think, has been huge over the past couple of weeks, getting a bigger impact from Jalen Hunt. And then the special teams has been lights out, absolutely lights out. Top 20 special teams unit overall. They haven't had those huge busted open plays like a blocked kick or a blocked punt or a return for a touchdown on either side of the punt or kick return game, but they have not made any crucial mistakes. Steven Rusnak has a tie right now for the longest stretch of field goals made in the country. I think at 19 or 20 in a row dating back to last season. And Max Fletcher, that average isn't very high because the offense is putting him in position to only have to punt from the midfield basically every single play because of how efficient the offense has been. But he's coffin cornering almost every opponent once or twice a week, putting him inside the 5-yard line. And it's giving more breathing room to an offense that is really, really good, but is still, I think, trying to find itself consistency-wise, especially through the air. Or, I mean, on the ground, obviously, they're elite.
Kind of feel that you know what you're going to get when they run that ground game. But no, you're right. I mean, the starting field position, at least according to this data that comes from ESPN and collegefootballdata.com, says that the Bearcats are number 2 in the country in starting field position when it comes to defense on the defensive side of the ball. So, Max Fletcher doing his thing. Really hope there's more Fletcher brothers that get their chance to come through UC. Definitely going to see that a dynasty.
I don't know if there are any more, honestly, but it would be nice. It would be nice to see some more of that happening for sure.
Well, I know you mentioned this when it comes to the offense. Obviously, scoring is really all you care about. Same with the defense, and it seems as though there's a pattern forming with how the defense plays. Can we trust the don't break part of the bend but don't break defense? We'll break that down next. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. I'm going with Jeff Caldwell for the Bearcats MVP last week against UCF. Jeff Caldwell went off 2 touchdowns. One of them was a nice route that he was able to run behind the UCF defense, and the other, he fought through contact in a play in which it felt like the referee just forgot where his flag was. Should have been pass interference. Didn't matter. He caught the ball in the end zone for his 2nd touchdown of the day. Jeff Caldwell kept it moving. And just like Jeff Caldwell delivered for the Bearcats, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday that you order. You can stack it all up in a season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply, promo period through November 18th. And when the whistle blows on a big repair job for you, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items can be found from the most trusted brands in the business on Supply House. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com and sign up for free. And also use the promo code SHCollege5 to save 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats part of your everyday routine and your first listen. If you're not yet an everydayer, please hit the subscribe button. We're free and available on all platforms. All right, Russ, we talked a lot about the offense, a little bit about special teams as well in the first segment of today's show. When we're looking at the defense, though, it's something that I think that as we sit in the stands and we watch this team, there's a little bit of like, oh boy, here we go again. Because it felt like UCF had the ball for like 4 years last Saturday, but they never could do anything because the defense for the Bearcats never broke. It did a lot of bending, never broke. Is that something that we can trust? Because there's a lot of analytics that don't necessarily love the Bearcats on the defensive side.
We're going to find out probably more so down the backstretch this season. Because you look at the opponents here, I mean, obviously it broke consistently against Iowa State. They paired a good rushing quarterback with a guy who can actually throw the football. I'm like Cam Fancher. He is not very accurate and not a very good passer. Very good runner. Did a good job. 20 carries, 100+ yards. Did a great job of keeping the sticks moving for UCF. I think they had over 25 first downs in that game, but it's not a guy that can execute in those short, tight windows in the red zone. And UC is going to face more of those guys down the stretch of the season.
Devin
Obviously,
Dampier's
that's
coming up. Yeah.
Well, Sawyer Robertson is a guy who's going to be able to find those windows when Baylor comes to town in a couple of weeks. So down the backstretch of the season, I'd be a little bit more wary of them being able to hold up like they did against UCF. But I think once you get put in that position as an offense, though, on the other side for UC, I think is where they can kind of thrive. Like against UCF, it was just a weird game. Like there was so many first downs from UCF, and same with Iowa State. I mean, both times where they have opponents going forward on fourth down consistently, especially in the Iowa State game, and you just can't really get off the field as a defense. It kind of puts you in a little bit of a back against the wall mentality as an offense, but they've executed well in those scenarios. I would be, to answer your question succinctly here, yes, very wary about it down the back half of the season, just because statistically, like you mentioned, if you put yourself in that many red zone problems, you're going to have more touchdowns allowed eventually. But I mean, I could find the numbers real quick and get them updated. UC's been one of the best red zone defenses in the entire country so far, and that's obviously been one of the big reasons why they're only at one loss this season.
That's the one thing that I keep kind of holding on to with this defense. It's funny because like Chad and I discussed this a couple of days ago when it comes to the Bearcats defense, that it's like it's something that Tyson Veit did when he was at Iowa State, and Iowa State fans had a hard time getting used to it. But once they did see the vision, they understood what the team was doing. And so maybe that's just kind of where we are as Bearcats fans, like watching this team, we're kind of growing pains, watching a different defense that isn't necessarily super aggressive, but is at least efficient at what it's trying to do. And what it's trying to do is making sure that once you get near the 20-yard line, once you get near the red zone, you stop having so much success. It's just such a weird thing to watch where kind of like, I mean, like you mentioned, the long drives that really didn't go anywhere. I mean, Iowa State had the ball on that one drive. I think it was like 9.5 minutes in like 17 plays, and they still ended up punting.
Right. And that's the kind of the crazy thing is they're 50%. I got the numbers right now. 50% according to CFBstats.com on allowing touchdowns to opponents when they get into the red zone this season. That's 26, I think, nationally. Very good numbers. And they've only allowed 18 trips into the red zone this season, 41st. So it may seem like, there's all of these long drives and these opponents are kind of getting the ball where they want to, but really they haven't had a lot of issues allowing teams to get deep into their own territory. And outside of the big plays against Kansas and Iowa State, the explosives have not been a huge issue like they were in the first 2 years of Satterfield's tenure so far. But I mean, I'm not even really going to count the UCF. Like the UCF had that 40-yard reception we talked about a few minutes ago. That was perfectly defended. It's just, of course, there was another fumble where it bounced off the ground into the guy's arms against UCF. Back-to-back weeks where that's happened, and UC has not even had a chance to go after the fumble when it's out in open play. Of course, that's what's going on for the Bearcats defense in terms of just their inability to really turn the football over as well. I don't think they have an interception this season. And I told Matthew McDoom when we were walking over from Nippert Stadium to the facility, I was like, "You guys are due this week, man. You guys are due this week." He was like, your mouth to the Lord's ears. I was like, we'll see, man. We'll see. He's a lot of fun, Matthew McDoom. But overall, just the defense, I think, has been better than it's felt, is what I'll say.
Yeah, and I think that they break that streak this week in getting a pick, and hopefully they don't get a defensive pass interference.
It hurts more because opponents are completing a lot of passes. They are.
Yes.
The completion rate is really high. They're moving the sticks through the air at a pretty consistent rate, but UC is bowing up once it gets across their side of the field, especially in that 35 to 50-yard range. And the numbers bear that out. I mean, they're 32nd nationally in rushing success rate as a defense, only allowing 39% success rate on opponent rushes, but they're allowing 44% success rate on their opponent passes. That's 119th nationally. And for people that don't know what success rate means, it's anything that is considered like a successful play. So a 7-yard pass is a successful play, or any pass that earns you a first down would be a successful play, and stuff like that. Rushing 4-yard run is a successful run, or any run that earns you a first down. So big discrepancy on those two sides of the coin in terms of rushing and passing consistency from the defense.
That was something I noted from Cam Fancher as well. Like didn't he go like 28 of 49 or something like that? Because you look at that statistic and you're like, that was efficient as far as completing it. But then you look at his, average yard per attempt was only 4.5 yards. Like, well, that is exactly what Tyson Veit wants. He doesn't care if you complete the passes as long as you get tackled as soon as you get that catch.
Right. And it was really, we talk about the defense. They really didn't allow a touchdown in my eyes in that game because of the craziness it took at the end of the fourth quarter to even get in position to score for UCF.
Yeah, that one drive, my not so good naming abilities call that the not so immaculate reception. There's got to be a better name for it, but that's just what I thought the whole time. I'm like, how on earth did he catch that? But then I don't even think anybody was like mad after that play. Everybody just kind of like chilled out and were like, oh, really? That's what keeps this drive going? Okay, sure. Fine. We'll do that. That's like if you're playing college football 26 and the computer decides that that was
a glitch play in
yeah,
game for sure.
It was the competitive rebalancing play that it's like, all right, you can't win by that much. Like, we've got to make sure that this looks interesting. And then, of course, the referee, taking UCF to cover, gave them the pass interference call. I digress on that one. But no, I think that they get off the schneid, though. I think that they get a pick this week. Maybe at least force one turnover. I'm not going to say multiple because it seems kind of hard at this point, but I think at least one turnover, and that's going to feed that spread, and that's going to feed the offense's ability to maybe hit that 40.5 point total that FanDuel's got for them.
Yeah, and it's pretty astounding that, Jeff, through 6 games, UC's only amassed 3 turnovers this season as a defense, which ranks 130th nationally. And they are 5-1. It is hard to do that. And especially goes to show how well they have taken care of the football, which 12th best in terms of lost turnovers this season, only 4 giveaways as an offense in total. That's 12th in the entire country. So a really, really good job by the offense. Just need the defense to just capitalize in those split seconds where that ball's on the ground or you got a clear interception in your hands. If they had that one against Nebraska, they'd be 6-0 right now. And I'm with you. They should definitely get a turnover in this game, at least one. I wouldn't be shocked if they get multiple here and maybe a defensive score because this Oklahoma State team is not ideal in terms of overall turnovers over the past few weeks. On the season, though, they've only given up 5 total turnovers on the entire campaign. So maybe 2 turnovers is asking a little bit much, but you'd think they could get one. UC could.
Coming from us, it would sound as though it were trash talk, but I swear this came from our Locked On Oklahoma State guy, in that he said the guy starting at quarterback this week was actually transferring in as a wide receiver, and the guy who could be seeing some snaps in a rotation with him was playing flag football at UCF last year. So there's definitely some.
How about on the flip side for Oklahoma State, how horrible they've been, only turning the ball over 5 times this season.
Right.
It's pretty hard to do.
There's a little bit of rebalancing in itself that's going to happen with those statistics, I believe, this week. And that's a little bit of a preview for what we got next, because we're going to tell you exactly how it's going to go in Stillwater for Oklahoma State's homecoming. And that's coming up next. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence. Pure confidence. And if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long, because that's exactly where Rugiet Go Long comes in. It's not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege to save 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. And there's still time to take advantage of this great introductory offer over at FanDuel, where new users can place a $5 wager, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. Those odds can't be beat anywhere. And you can put that $5 on the Bearcats this week. A couple of different lines in this game. You've got the Bearcats favored by 21.5. The total over-under is at 57.5. And the Bearcats' total points in this game is set at 40.5. To be quite honest with you, I feel like the matchup is good, but I feel like the emotions are running high on homecoming. I have a hard time taking the Bearcats minus 21.5, although I've heard from some other folks, you feel like you should smash that. So if you're in that camp, go to FanDuel and take the Bearcats laying 21.5. 40.5 feels like a lot, but this offense feels like it's time to really put up this week against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State's defense is not that good. I might sprinkle a little bit on there. I don't know. Go on over to FanDuel right now. Like I said, new users, $5 wager that wins, get you $300 in bonus bets. Download FanDuel today. I encourage you to keep the conversation going with me and with Russ after the show is over. You can follow me on Twitter and TikTok at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, and you can also follow Russ on Twitter at Russ Heltman 11. You can also follow the show at LO_Bearcats on Twitter as well. I did see somebody had tagged the LO_Bearcats account on Twitter in an interesting statistic that when Scott Satterfield does not wear a visor, he has a coaching winning percentage of 833. So 83% of the time he wins whenever he's not wearing a visor. So I would echo that
just this season. 5-1?
I think that's overall, like his entire career. They went back and they looked at every single game that he's ever been a head coach in.
I wonder,
and it's 83%.
I wonder if he's coached without, because I'd be shocked if he's coached without a visor before this season.
It might not be that much, but like, you know.
Yeah, it's just this season that he's 5-1. Just this season.
Okay.
That's 83% right there.
Hey, you know, stats, they say what we want them to say. But I
love it. I love it. Hey, he said he made the change because he wanted to change it up. I literally asked him that. We asked him. We've had multiple people ask him that this offseason. He said, yeah, we're only got 8 wins through 2 years. We got to change it up around here. That's one of the many reasons why I try to stay unbiased. I don't root for teams, but I root for people in this industry, and I root for a guy like Scott Satterfield because for people that have never talked with him or don't really know him at all, he seems like a really great guy, very jovial. He's given us a lot of fun moments over what has not been a very fun 2-year stretch, but it's getting a lot more fun in the last 2 months.
Hey, if it takes wearing a fedora to get an 83% win percentage, you should do it.
Anything but a sweatshirt with a suit jacket over top of it. Anything but that, and we'll allow it. Or Jordans with a suit. Anything but that.
That's the Michael Scott 2-week notice outfit, I think, is what that was called.
The Whitworth. We call that the Whitworth. Which I love Andrew Whitworth, but man, that's a horrible look.
That's an interesting decision that he made on that one. So with that being said, I'm guessing he's going to continue this tradition and not wear a visor this week. And that is the sole reason, no other reason whatsoever, that the Bearcats are going to win. No, I'm kidding. There's lots of reason that the Bearcats are going to win this game. I keep going back and forth, though. And I know the spread started out 21.5. It went all the way up to 23 at one point. Now it's back down to 21.5. I stopped short of being confident that they're going to hit that. I know that last week we said didn't think they'd cover against UCF. They did not cover for reasons. There might be reasons again that they don't necessarily cover in this game.
I got very lucky in my prediction of no cover by the Bearcats. They should cover that game easily.
You did. I feel like the homecoming bit is going to play a role though, and I think that the Bearcats win by 20. Still, it's going to be fine. Like, I'll be happy with a 20-point victory. And I think they ultimately, I said it with Chad yesterday. I said, I think they win 35-15. I don't think I'm changing on that one. So I might not be leaning toward that over on the 40.5. I just, that seems really high.
38-10 Bearcats here for me. I think they cover. And it's just, I don't see the execution at the quarterback position that other teams have had this season to be able to move the football like we talked about all throughout the first, 25 minutes of this show. So when you look at Sam Jackson, the fifth, first start last week, absolutely horrific, 84 yards passing with an interception. There's that turnover that we talked about, 1/5 of their turnovers last week by Sam Jackson, who's a converted wide receiver, transfer from Auburn and Cal. I mean, 14 of 28 total this season for 161 yards. They had 10 first downs, 11 penalties, 107 yards. Half of their total yardage was from their running back, Rodney Fields Jr., who's probably the only real issue for UC to account for this week. But their rush defense is way better than their pass defense so far this year. 20th in EPA per rush allowed is the Cincinnati defense. I don't see how the Oklahoma State Cowboys are going to be able to move the football really at all. And it's going to be another situation like with UCF where probably a garbage time touchdown and something like that. So Bearcats 38-10. They make it a sad homecoming for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and they get bowl eligible right past the midway point of the 2025 season.
So let's have some fun with this one. So I think we both know that they're going to win this week. Let's take it a step further, because there's been a new guy that has been at the top of this pyramid each week. Who's the leading receiver for the team this week?
For the Bearcats?
Yes.
I'm going to go Royer. I think Royer has a big game this week. I think Joe busts out, maybe a little bit more attention to Jeff Caldwell, Cyrus Allen. That kind of roving carousel of attention gets away from Joe Royer, and he has a big game. Give me 5 catches, 65 yards, and we'll go touchdown for Joe.
I like that. I love the yak that he got on that one last week. That was a big one to see, and I thought he was going to get all the way into the end zone. He just looked like he ran out of steam there at the end.
I know. That right there is basically what's keeping him from being a top 60 draft pick this coming April, is just that little moment, those final 15 yards. It's so important, though. If you can punch those in as a tight end as opposed to getting chased down, and like we talked about, defenses like the UC Bearcats stopping you in the red zone. It's a huge difference in those moments.
I like the Joe Royer pick. I think I'm going to buoy it with Caleb Goody. I think Caleb Goody's going to have himself a day. I think he's going to play havoc on this Oklahoma State defense that's just woeful against the pass. I think that they're going to be able to pass all over them, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be dink and dunk. They're going to uncork it. They're going to make sure that they really get some nice, long, explosive plays in here, and that, Brendan Sorsby had a nice throw to Jeff Caldwell in the deep play last week, but there really wasn't a lot of other plays that you're like, that's what he's been doing so far this season. So I think he's going to bounce back in a big way, and I think Caleb Goody's going to be the recipient of that. We'll have him leading the team. It was a nice week for Jeff Caldwell, though. Like, I love that catch that he had in the end zone, that it looked like a clear defensive pass interference, and they just the flag got lost somewhere. I don't know what happened to it, but he was still able to catch it, fight through the contact. Love to see that from him. Cyrus Allen was kind of quiet last week, though, and I'm interested to see if he's a bigger part of this game plan, but I'm still going to go with Caleb Goody.
Yeah, I think Caldwell was the highest graded player on Pro Football Focus from last week's game. Nice little jump out game from him after a few quiet weeks, and he'll have a height advantage over this entire secondary once again that the Mordecai McDaniel-led Oklahoma State secondary is bringing to the table.
Yeah, that's the one guy that our Locked On Oklahoma State guy had mentioned. He's like, I'm looking for this dude to have a big game on defense, but I'm hoping that the receivers shut him down or shut him out, I guess, and make sure that they have a big day. But it's going to be fun to watch, and we're going to be all over it on the post game here on Locked On Bearcats, and we will be back with you, of course, next week, all week, because we talk Bearcats every single day. And Russ, I know you got a lot going on over at Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. What do you guys got playing this weekend?
We got the full coverage of the game. Obviously, we got basketball scrimmages firing up. I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit about that next week. We are close to the busiest month of the entire year, and it's always a lot of fun in November. So a lot of good stuff coming up, and a lot of good stuff to cover. We will have all the coverage from Oklahoma State this weekend on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Check us out there.
Real quick before we get out of here, like, how big of a loss do you think it is for Jalen Haynes?
I think it's significant. It's not changing the expectations for me this season out of Wes Miller. This is still should be a make the tournament season expectation. But as he said a couple of days ago at his press conference, this team is not really ready to play games yet. They're still trying to gel. This is the most turnover he's ever had with a team. So can see why they only went with, I think, one true road game in the non-conference slate. That's against Xavier, and losing Jalen Haynes is not ideal for this team. But I think, honestly, the loss of Jizzle James may end up being a positive on the floor, because he led the team in points per game, led the team in assists per game last year, but I didn't like a lot of what he did just minute to minute on the floor, a lot of bad shot selection. And just I had issues with his game last year, and I think it could be opening things up to be even more open and free as an offense. But you don't have Jalen Haynes now, who was going to be a key 20-plus minute per game guy, I projected. And you really need Tyler McKinley to have an impact as a redshirt freshman, or it just gets really thin really fast at that 4 or 5 position with really just Baba Miller and Mustafa Cham leading the way right there, along with McKinley and maybe some other guys flying around. Maybe you can go small more often with Shanabayev. I'm sure they're percolating through all the ways to get through this, but it sounds like a pretty significant injury to Jalen Haynes, and hopefully, if it is super significant, he can get that medical red shirt, and be able to come back and still flourish in that final year of eligibility. What you never want to see happen is a guy kind of in the middle of coming back. You don't know if you can really come back, and you're trying to push it. You come back, you're not the player you want to be, and you end up wasting that last year of eligibility. So we'll see what happens with that, but not the greatest offseason of vibes for this Bearcats basketball team, but a new look team, and I think one that will ultimately come together, and we'll see how well it comes together in terms of getting to the NCAA tournament. That's way down the line in terms of how well I think they can actually do in the Big 12 once we get to the dog days of January. How they respond there is where we're really going to see. But Jalen Haynes just really stinks. I hate to see that for him. He's maybe going to be a fun guy.
There's a lot of questions that are both seen and unseen when it comes to this Bearcats basketball team before we get to the whole tournament idea. But I did love that Ken Pom had them winning 20 games, and I feel good about that. If that's the case, if that's what the resume looks like, I think they've got a real good shot to make that tournament field. But yeah, losing the offensive side of this because they're just not the strongest offensive looking team, at least predictions wise.
Right. And Paynes was going to give you a lot of good offense in that post. And now it's Mustafa Cham. Are you an NBA player? Can you be an NBA fulcrum point? Can you run offense through that high post? Can you run down and be a consistent force on defense like you were last year, and on offense this year a little bit more consistently than he was, obviously, as a very young true freshman at UCF? All eyes on Mustafa Cham. He is honestly, I would say, the most important player on this team going into the season because of how much more, I would say, offensive responsibility he's going to have to take on now with the absence of Jalen Haynes.
I'm very excited to talk some basketball. I'm glad that it's getting rolling here, obviously, tonight against Michigan in the scrimmage. And then I know that's on like Big Ten Plus or something like that. I think you have to pay extra for it because it's not
you
even.
You got to go to the moon
to
go watch the game on tonight.
It's so annoying. I love watching sports in this day and age. Anyway, that'll end it here today on this Locked On Bearcats podcast. We're going to be with you all about basketball, all about football, moving on through the rest of this season. So make sure you subscribe, become an everydayer right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, because we're free and available everywhere you get your podcast. Now that you've done with your first listen here, Locked On Bearcats, make your second listen Locked On Big 12. Drake Toll breaks down the most exciting conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.